culture. Where did we miss it? We are currently live on the YouTube. Yes, we are live on YouTube. So for those of us who are having challenges with network on Zoom, we will get a link that would lead us to YouTube. So once again, welcome. Awesome. Thank you, Praise. Praise just shared on the chat that if this happens again, we will send a, we have a YouTube link. I think we should just send, if possible, send the, our channel, our YouTube channel link here, so everyone can as well also be subscribed there and get notifications. And then we can have this streamed there directly, and then you can watch it without this interference. Yes, so that's Praise Forward Live on YouTube. Praise Forward Live on YouTube. This has been streamed there. You can just go there, check the link, subscribe to the channel, click the notification button, and then await. If we have any bullies come in, we will leave them here and we'll go to a place where it's bully free. And it's my wish and my hope that as we move forward, not just even in this event, as we move forward in everything we do in our relationships, in our business, everywhere, that we are free of these violences that could be traumatic and detrimental to our growth as an individual, as a group, a community, or as an organization. Thank you very much. I'm being bullied here with music. Okay, so once again, welcome to this. We have a video to play. We'll have Tony, who's already here, to tell us a story, but I'll plead with our facilitators because we have time, we're behind time. We'll kind of cut short your time a bit, and we expect you to just go straight to the point so that we can run off. Yes, Samson said he has a meeting for 12:30. So we're gonna move straight up. But if we're ready with the video, we can play the video. If the video isn't here, Tony, you have about 5 minutes or less to hit us with your story. So Tony, over to you, Tony.
Okay, thank you very much. Can we all hear me? Good
Loud
afternoon.
And clear. Loud and clear.
It's a privilege to join us on this conversation for the 16 days activism against gender-based violence. I particularly want to say a special thank you to Mr. Praise Forward, TJ, and all the E for she, who are joining this. But really, the cry for gender-based violence is not only a female thing, it's gender. Gender is gender. There's male and there's female. And coming from my story and the harsh reality that some 26 years ago, and that should be in 1995, I was raped as a 10-year-old. And about a year later, my adopted father molested me for 7 years. And then fast forward to the year 2021, we are still talking about the same issue. This time around, even worse. The effect, the traumatic psychological effect of the abuse that I survived 26 years ago is something that I've not even been able to heal from, even at almost 40. And so I'm trying to say that what happened then, what were the factors? Silence. I was told that if I told anybody, I would be sent back to the village and I would die after 7 days. This is 2021. The people who have been molested, who have been bullied, who have been abused are given the same threat. If you tell anybody, you will die. And I'm saying this narrative has not stopped. I did not only survive sexual abuse, I was verbally abused, physically abused, emotionally abused, psychologically abused. So I went through all the schools of abuses. I'm a graduate of the School of Abuses, and sexual abuse was the price I had to pay to get an education, because I was told that if I told anybody, I would go back to the village. So this is my charge to us. If in 2021, we still have the silence culture, then there is a problem. Then it means that the problem is no longer the abuse. Silence is now the abuse. And so we need to break that silence. And for me, the action plan is that we encourage more people to speak out. We encourage the stakeholders to take action. I'm just coming out from, this is a 14-year-old girl that was killed because she was raped and sodomized in a school, a boarding school in Abuja. And nothing has been done. The authorities are silent. The Minister of Education, the Minister of Women Affairs, the Minister of the FCT are silent. So the silence culture is a huge problem. And that is what we need to begin to tackle. Because reporting to, like in my NGO, I do what you call confronting the abuser technique, where we go and confront the abuser, gather our evidence using a recorder, then we take that up. We also do what we call reporting to the authorities. We also do what we call making the abuser to admit to the crime. And then we do counseling, talk therapy, psychosocial support for the victim. But beyond all of that, I am pleading that stakeholders need to also always speak out on behalf of the victim. Sometimes the victim's voices are not loud enough. And so we need to amplify their voice and then make their silence loud. Because of time frame, I'm just trying to wrap it up and say that I was abused, I survived it. 26 years ago, this is 26 years after. What has gone wrong? So much so that even the schools are no longer safe for our children. A boy was bullied to death in his school. A girl was raped to death in his school. How much more are we going to condone? Are we going to stop going to school? Are we going to stop sending our words to school? Why are the lives of our children now so endangered? So it's a clarion call for everybody. Let's lend our voices to the conversation. If you have a WhatsApp group, please use it. If you have a social media handle, please use it. If you want to open an NGO, please, let's just take action. Praise Forward cannot do it alone. Tony Falaye cannot do it alone. TJ cannot do it alone. We need a coalition. We need everybody's hand to be on deck so that until our voices are heard and until there is stringent measures and laws in place, then we can begin to say that we indeed have a voice and we can cure the real abuse, which is silence. Thank you.
Amazing. Thank you very much, Tony, Barrister Tony, for being honest and sincere with your story and ending to the fact that we need to move from being silent to speaking out, speaking up. Who do we speak out to? How do we speak up? This and more will be coming up as we continue this conversation. Quickly, we'll be handing over to the next session where Praise Forward is going to take us through some implementable strategies to go from just talking to actionable and also scalable actionable steps. Thank you, Tony. Tony, where can we find you online? If we type your name, Tony Falaye, we'll be able to find you, your books,
Okay.
you see, and all that.
My personal handle is Tony Falaye on Instagram. I also have a YouTube channel, Tony Falaye. Then my NGO is Jewels_Hive. And
okay, thanks.
as TJ published my first book, Beyond the Abuse, we're doing a revised edition very soon. And so we're just doing what we can to lend our voices, and one day our voices will be heard.
Okay, I probably would not have been silent about that, since silence is a problem. I should have been silent about that. Thank you, Tony. You can put that in the chat comment, in the chat group of this call. So quickly, we'll hand over to Praise Forward to allow him lead us in a conversation towards implementing strategies we can use to ensure that we build scalable solutions. Once again, thank you all for coming to this town hall meeting, and please sit back, for this is going to be a ride, and there's a Q&A session that is coming on where we will talk about bullying and all that. I know we have questions, we have comments, but remember, in this town hall meeting, it's not just about our thoughts and opinion, it's about what we can do to ensure that we curb this and scale that solution. So please, if your fingers are there, help me welcome Praise Forward with, a chat on the chat box. Praise Forward, over to you.
Thank you very much, CJ. So this meeting is, I want to welcome all of you once again, and thank you so much for joining. We thank God that we are able to come back to the meeting, whichever way we're going to run this meeting. So in case the bullies decide to come again, we will deploy StreamYard, and it just means that people can just watch on YouTube and on Facebook. Now, this talk and this town hall meeting has become very, very important in this age and time. We're talking about moving from talk to scalable action. And I don't know about you, I am always very, very against whatever cannot deliver the result. Because if we have a situation, if we find what the problem is, then we should be able to create a solution that is immediate, and that is scalable. These problems are not rocket science. They are things that we can do almost. So on that basis, I'm going to take my presentation, then I'll wait for the panel session where we'll zoom in on the Doen case and several other cases like that happening around us. Now, I'll start with an African proverb that says that a man that offers prayers on matters that he has the capacity to write a check to solve is not really interested in solving the problem. That if a matter comes to you, someone says, I need school fees, and the school fees is 1,000 naira, and you have 1,000 naira, 10,000 naira in your bank account, and you tell the person, let us pray in Jesus' name, or maybe in Allah's name. We pray that, your school fees is paid. Amen. That person is not interested in solving the problem. Now, every time there's a breaking news, like we've been having perpetual breaking news. I mean, I woke up, I'm presently in Dallas, Texas. I woke up at 12 a.m. my time yesterday. I barely to get to bed at maybe 11 p.m. just to catch a few hours of sleep to join this meeting again, because my phone just started buzzing about the Doen case and I had to be attending to people. Now, whenever there is a breaking news, it's almost as if Nigeria has become used to breaking news, that once it happens, there is outrage on social media. Once there's outrage, the next thing is march by civil society sometimes, and there's nothing wrong with that. However, I am going to be very, very open about this. I am beginning to think that the march for some is genuine and they really, really want to solve the problem. The march for some is beginning to look like an activity to justify it, because it's looking like there's a business in there. And once the business is introduced into advocacy, everybody wants the problem to continue, because once the problem is over, there may not be funding again. Now, so there is march by civil society groups. I mean, I love many of the civil society groups that have been at the forefront of this over time. But a time has come that we need to begin to look beyond march and begin to ask ourselves before we go on the march, that can this march really solve the problem? If the march is just awareness and sensitization, nothing wrong with it. But if we're going to camp there till solution comes, then maybe we're getting closer to the issue. The next thing that happens is prosecution. Thank God for organizations that will follow through. DSVR A right now, I think, they will follow through. So prosecution sometimes happen. But even within the ambit of prosecution, who can be prosecuted? Are there no people above the law? I remember I was in a strategy session one day at the office of the then Deputy Governor of Lagos State. And we said, there's going to be zero tolerance for rape. And I raised my hand and I asked a question. You said there's going to be zero tolerance for rape. If the governor is accused of rape, would there be zero tolerance? The room went quiet and nobody could answer the question until we left the meeting. So prosecution sometimes, then after that, the next breaking news. Now, what is the rate and the speed of prosecution? It's a question we need to begin to ask ourselves. Then what happens when the rapists outnumber the prison facility? This is another area we need to begin to look at. But today, who is the real enemy? And why have we not defeated this scourge? Because if we are talking about a problem whose enemies we don't know, then we have lost the battle. Or maybe it has become a business process where we just love the idea of solving the problem and not really solving the problem. Because what we're talking about can be solved. Bullying in secondary school can be solved in like 1 week. It can, domestic violence can be solved within 5 years. If we really, really want it solved, the question is, do we really want it solved? So here are a couple of cases. Who will listen? How does the wife of a major religious leader come out to talk about domestic violence cases without losing the perks of office that come with that title of First Lady of the religious outfit? I mean, if a major GO beats his wife, how does she come out and say, you know what, my husband is beating me, because there are perks attached to her office as the First Lady of the religious institute. Now, how does a poor family prosecute an influential king for an offense like rape when the survivor is paramount on their mind, right? I work way back in Nigeria, and I know cases where the family will tell you, don't want prosecution. Can you just tell the family to give us like 100,000 over a child that was raped? Now, how does a man come out to talk about his emotional and physical abuse in the hands of his wife without the black backlash from a society that is ready to make a joke out of his issue, to say, and you call yourself a man, how can a woman slap you? Now, if a governor or a president rape or bullies people, are they able to resign in Africa? I mean, I'm in the US, you know, if you do anything of such, you are going to step down, right? And these are societies that, I mean, Nigeria is a religious society. We say these guys are backslided, but they are able to resign. Are we able to do that right now? Now, the moment, please note this statement carefully. The moment your action violates your profession, then someone is, deceiving himself or trying to deceive others. That the moment you activate common sense and you see a behavior to solve a problem and the behavior does not make sense, then someone is deceiving people. So here is what we do. Nigeria believes that we are the most prayerful nation on the planet. We want to eliminate gender-based violence. Look at our activity. We shout and we create outbursts. The next thing we do is to march. Then we do prayer meeting and preaching outbursts. So pastors will talk on the pulpit, imams, we talk, we join prayer meeting. God, may it not happen to my child. May it not happen to my child. Then we do 21 days of activism like we're doing. Then conferences and speeches. Let me ask all the people in this meeting, if we follow this process for the rest of our life, for the next 20 years, would we arrive at this solution of eliminating gender-based violence and bullying? Can I see your response in the chat room? If we follow this, we do this with the whole of our life, with every day of our life, would we eliminate gender-based violence or bullying? Can I see your answers? Let me see. If we will, if we continue this, okay? People are saying no, 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 no. But we quote it all the time that, you know, when you do the same thing the same way and you expect a different result, is the definition of insanity. This is what we do. If this is all we do, the question is, are we ready to solve the problem? I don't think we are ready to solve the problem. I think there must be a business going on here. But let me show you another chart, right? Let's say this is all we do. Effective legislation and policy. Zero tolerance for gender-based violence and gender-based violence content. We said Nigeria has zero tolerance, so we don't want artists who will sing about the backside of a lady, who will show bullying, that we will have zero tolerance and we'll match word with action. Community-led whistleblowing, that nobody will be above the law and there will be whistleblowers. Equitable and respectful society. We agree today that Nigeria will no longer talk about male, female, male is superior to female. Nigeria will now be an equitable society where the best of us lead the rest of us, irrespective of their gender. If we have effective rehabilitation and gender equity education system, where everyone the right definition for male, the right definition for female, the merit-driven appointment, where you no longer settle paddies. You put incompetent people in position. You put your friends in a position they don't understand. You appoint commissioner for women affairs or commissioner for whatever in various states of Nigeria of people who are learning on the job. Now, question, if this is what we do in the next 5 years, would we eliminate gender-based violence? Can I see a response? If this is what we do, would we be able to eliminate it? Yes or no? Can I say, based on this, compared to the first one? Okay, someone is saying yes, 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 yes. So this simply means that we can solve the problem. Until you begin to see this, then we are not solving any problem. It just means that could be a business, because there is a business in crisis. I mean, if you have an organization that is fear-driven, if fear goes, then that is the end of the business. So if this can work, question is, why have we not done this? Now, this is our present reality in Africa. This is the population review template of 2020. 12 of the worst countries to live in 2020 are all African countries. And there is something similar to all of them. One, they all pay lip service to gender-based violence. They all don't prioritize girl-child education, right? And they are countries of emotions and not systems. Emotions means they are countries where a leader is above the system and the life of the leader is above the life of the led, right? They are countries where people do things without consequences. Now, what is domestic violence basically? Domestic violence is simply any abusive, violent coercion or threatening act or words inflicted by person in a domestic relationship. And it covers a wide range of relationships. Issues such as sexual abuse or exploitation, including but not limited to rape, physical abuse, that is when you hit someone, emotional, verbal, and psychological abuse, which we don't talk about. You open your mouth and you make snaring remarks at people, you talk them down, right? Economic abuse and exploitation, including denial of basic education and starvation, stalking and any controlling behavior towards another person, then bullying. And bullying will include bullying in public schools, in private schools, bullying by government officials on the land, bullying in religious places, whether manipulation in the name of prophecy or vision or whatever. All these things are going on. Bullying in this, when somebody says, if you don't give now, something is like somebody did not give, something happened to him. Even some of the SMSs and the WhatsApp messages we send are bullying in nature. Now, the question is not who has been raped. The question is who has not been raped or violated. Because the psychology of rape is the quest to forcefully or subtly take from someone what the person is unwilling to freely give, which means that many people may have been raped without them considering that rape. Because when we reduce rape to penetration, then we may not be doing justice to the matter. Now, in our culture, I'm a Yoruba man. In our culture, there is a concept called Obagbesele in our ancient history. What that means is the king can look at your wife and like your wife, and the king can now say, I put my leg on your wife. That's happened for many years in Africa, right? What exactly is rape and abuse again, if that is not an abuse? How did many of our girls lose their virginity way back? Some of us are guilty. You have a girlfriend, you feel entitled to private areas. Initially, she's struggling with you, you force your way in the first time, then it continues. She doesn't even know it was rape. Now, so if we have to go the route, and that is still happening, how many boys lost their virginity to ourselves? Seniors at school, 11 years ago, I started reporting about the concept called Fokarama in Nigeria, which is sodomy, wherein junior students are raped by school fathers when they resume, and it's a culture in many of the schools, and almost all the schools with boarding houses, and nothing happens. I reported this for years, nothing happened until Sylvester's case came out. Now, do you know how many boys, the generation of LGBT we are raising from our secondary schools, both lesbians and homosexuality, which is gradually becoming a culture? How many of our young minds have been exposed to uncensored lyrical content of our celebs? So we say we don't want gender-based violence, but a celeb sings a song that promotes gender-based violence. The state government bring the same celeb to come and sing at the end of the year. Who is fooling who? How many of us have had our provisions taken by seniors and we couldn't talk? If a senior took your provision while you were in school, right? Can I hear you say hi in the chat box? They took your provisions, you couldn't talk, you kept quiet about it because nobody would believe you. Maybe because they were going to kill you or something like that. The fear of some of those seniors was the beginning of wisdom. I still remember some of them. If you mention the name Sir Gonzalez now, I know the fear that grips me. If you mention the name Sylvester, because these were seniors in our age and time. Now, there are two types of, abuse, right? Interaction and orientation. Interaction is when we are touched, and that is what we talk about. Orientation is more lethal. What music do we dance to? What music trend on our space? What do we reward as a people? These are questions we need to answer, because if we want to move from talk to scalable action, then we need to zoom in on the problem spot, because every time there's an event, state government does it. They bring speeches. Even when the speaker is speaking, the stakeholders are leaving for another meeting. Why did they call the meeting in the first place? So here are the effects on our society. Prostitution, rise in rapists, bullies everywhere. Many of us were traumatized by the military government. Now civilians are traumatizing us as well. So if the civilians are traumatizing you and you are upset with the trauma, why won't you? How easy it is not to pass aggression to our children. So there are bullies everywhere. Deaths. We can see that's happening. Many of us are sadly about the death in Ojodu yesterday. Unfortunately, there may not be consequences. You have underdevelopment of the girl child unstable families, high divorce rate, dysfunctional leadership and society. Broken people cannot build an effective society. Many of us are broken. How do we build an effective society when we don't even know what we're doing? It's all we have is passion. Passion is not enough. Passion now must be matched with knowledge. That is why, there was a match we were going to go for many years ago, only to hear that many of the people who were matching together have collected money. And I'm like, so what are we doing here? That was why I stopped matching. How can we help? Edmund Bunke said, all that is required for evil to triumph is for good men to do nothing. I think the first thing we need to do, since we want to move from talk to scalable action, and once you don't see this action, we are not interested in solving the problem. One, we need to do a proper root cause analysis and create immediate solution. You cannot solve a problem you don't understand. Many people are trying to solve gender-based violence problem. They don't understand it. Many years ago, I remember I was in Abuja, and I was talking to a lady who runs an NGO, and the NGO promotes girl child and then goes against domestic violence. She has a lot of funding. And I asked a simple question at the meeting. Can you give me, it was a stupid question actually. Can you define who a girl is? Guess what? She couldn't define who a girl is. And she said to me, Praise, I've never talked about it. You have never talked about the definition for a girl. Running a girl child advocacy. You are collecting funding. What exactly is going on? So a lot of people don't do root cause analysis. And let me tell you, emotions does not solve any problem. Root cause analysis is what solves any problem. So we need to do a root cause to begin to ask, who are the victims of gender-based violence and how did the victims emerge? Because to stay in an environment of violence where you cannot speak up, right, shows that something has fundamentally gone wrong with your identity. So what system is producing the victim? Because we will pretend as if the victims fell from heaven. If a senior slaps me, I remember a senior said I offended him in school, activated the junior students to come and slap me, and I could do nothing. I couldn't even report. Now, how are the victims produced? If our children have sound esteem, will they keep quiet? Or if they are sure that we will take action, will they keep quiet? Then the perpetrators were made. They were not born. How were they made? Could they have been traumatized children who become dysfunctional adults, traumatizing other people? Can we begin to check what is the production factory of the perpetrators? And number three, we need to begin to look at is how do we how do we raise our families? Now, how are people raised? Check an average family. Trauma starts from the family. You yell on a 4-year-old, beat a 4-year-old for spilling water. Spilling of water at age 4 is expected behavior. It's not bad behavior. It's expected behavior for a 4-year-old. But you bully a 4-year-old for being a 4-year-old because he cannot defend himself. What mommy is doing, mommy is still going wrong. Nobody is beating mommy and daddy, but everyone is beating the child. When the child, as the child grows, he is also entitled to beating others when he becomes adult because he must give a reward for what was done to him. So what system do we run in our various families? Is husband not bullying the wife? Is wife not bullying the children? How did we grow up? Upbringing. What is our environment like? What do we promote? Doesn't the environment bully us? Of course, we had the Lekki case. We have not seen the end of that case. So the paper is out, right? The white paper is out. There is no closure, no healing, but we want to work. These are critical issues. Who is talking to our leaders that you cannot ask us to work when we have not solved the real problem that has led to the death of people, right? So the environment, what do we promote? What do we dance to? So we say this musician is against, is promoting lewd content, but the same musician we all dance to. If he organizes a concert, we all attend. So environment, significant emotional experience. Where are the trauma centers? There are lots of people going through trauma. Go to an average school. There is no school counselor. There is no psychologist, no child therapist. Even when there is child therapist, they will say they are too expensive. They can't pay. So you have an entire school who have advisors masquerading as guidance and don't mind the degree of guidance and counseling. We all know that the curriculum we run cannot even produce therapy, cannot produce guidance and counselors who can deploy intervention and deploy scalable action. So these are the things we're dealing with. Then you have the society. The society have three of them: the reinforcing society, the educating society, the prosecuting society. The reinforcing society are those people who teach concepts like a man is superior to a woman, right? And you see the carriers of error are also the same carriers of truth. The most damaging error shows up on our pulpit, right? It sounds subtle, it sounds good, it shows up in our comedy shows. When comedians talk about these things, they make a joke out of it, and all of us are clapping till the next person gets violated. What happens to walking out on leaders who are bullying us? What happens to all of us saying we will boycott the content of a musician? Because the powers the consumers have is the power to dictate what the producer should produce. Without the consumer, producer is useless. You can produce your product. If we refuse to buy, then that is the end. You will now be forced to listen to us. But we all feel helpless, almost as if we're practicing learned helplessness. So there's a reinforcing society that promotes this. When a child is born, what are the questions we ask? Some stupid question: male, boy, or girl? If he says boy, you say okurimeta, oh, strong man. If he says girl, you tell the man or lenier. A child is already traumatized, is already violated by that statement. But we accommodate all these things. Then there's the educating society. The education society includes our schools, includes the advocates, includes the curriculum, includes the preachers on all our pulpits. What do they teach? Do they teach culture as scripture, or do they teach scripture? Are we practicing cultural Christianity or cultural Islam? Because the expression of those religions in other countries is totally different from what we see in our nation. Now, when my father in the Lord cannot be questioned, I have things I want to ask him, and I cannot ask him because I am afraid that if I touch the anointed, I am going to die. What else is bullying? But we all accommodate all of this all the time because we are afraid to be in the bad books. So we are all accomplices to this crime. So let's not be matching, because many of us are being bullied as I'm talking to you, but because it shows up in religious houses, because it shows up at work, you say nothing, right? So the educating society is critical. What are they educating? Do you know that in Nigeria, there is no university that is offering any course on family education or family therapy? It doesn't exist. Not even any college of education. Yet, these problems are all family problems. So what are we talking about? I mean, we have a certification program that we run, maybe the only credible that exists, and maybe a few others. Now, what are the universities doing? When a school is no longer a citadel of learning, what do we applaud in our schools? I see a boy in a school speaking in tongues and doing worship. Parents are clapping. May my child be like that. What is the purpose of a school? To lead a child to speak in tongues, or to activate the capacity of a child to think? So we are even lost totally because we don't even know what to expect. The goal of education is to place an open mind, and a closed mind with an open mind. So while his mates in Japan are thinking of how to go to Mars, are thinking of how to innovate solutions, we are comfortable when our children, and there's nothing wrong with speaking in tongues, nothing at all, so that I don't insult yourself. But these are critical issues where we don't ask questions. So you go to a school. A school is praying when a school should be doing root cause analysis and coming up with solutions. So you have the society. What are we going to do about the educating society? Then the prosecuting society. If you ask a policeman to go and arrest a religious leader, policeman is afraid. Because policeman gets there, he kneels down and says that they pray for me. If you send a policeman, go and arrest a godfather of politics, he cannot do it because he's going to remove from office. So when FBI, if you send FBI against any American, right? FBI will go there backed by the power of the state. But in Nigeria, there are people above the law. So even when we talk about prosecuting, let us search ourselves. Can you tell me one rich man or one top leader since you have been born? I mean, and I need you to chat room because this is a practical session. Can you tell me one top leader you know who has been convicted of gender-based violence and in prison? Let's test ourselves. Mention one. I'm not talking about poor people or no. Can you tell me one that you know that has been convicted, a top leader that has been convicted of gender-based violence? I mean, we see many of these things on social media. Do you know any? Right? It's a yes or no answer. Can you answer the question in the chat box? Know any? So if we don't know any, are we assuming that top leaders are not violating people? They are not bullying people, right? So these are the issues. But we know we all our strength grows. When a poor man does it, we all march, we all jump, we all move around. But when our favorite idols do it, we all keep quiet because we don't want to go into the wrong books because we fear that our life will be taken. The last lap is the skilled intervening support system. God bless our psychologists. God bless our counselors. But we need more people to get certified, more people to get trained. The funding for training in government, where exactly does it go? And who do they train? What do they train? What is the curriculum for training? What is the outcome that is expected? How is it measured? These are critical questions nobody's answering. I mean, training has become, I'm happy to go for training because there will be free food and there will be free money. If that is what training is all about, then we are all joking because all of us are queuing up to eat from the national cake. That's why somebody says, those waiting to steal are more than those who are already stealing. Do we really care about humanity? Or do we just want to create activities and frenzy to show that we are doing something? So how many people do we have that can, I mean, I hear my friend talking about they've trained 150 nurses. 150 nurses to a population of 30 million people. I mean, it's way too small, right? What is the rate? And I'm interested in the content as well. What are we training? Who do we get? When we want to train, who do we hire? Are we just hiring a professor who is going to teach theory? Or are we hiring people who have practicable solutions? I mean, as at the last time I checked, we invite names and degrees. We don't invite content that can practically solve problems. The question is, do we want to solve problems or do we want to get the idea of solving a problem and get into activities? Because we must not waste our life and waste our time. If we are not ready to solve this problem, can we all go? Because this problem can be solved. So this is the cycle we need to begin to interact with. Number two, I think we need to create a trend intervention built on effective project design and state and community-led response team to shift our belief. At the root of gender-based violence is disempowering beliefs. As at the last time I checked, ask an average person to define who a male is. They can't. Who is a female? They don't know. So when a man thinks because he has penis is superior to a female, how does that man respect a woman? So go and see bus conductors in Lagos. They will look at a lady and say, I have your type at home. What does that mean? Right? What does it mean? That is a man who has gross disrespect for the female folk. So can we start educating from primary school to say that a female is simply a feminine expression of humanity and a male is simply a masculine expression of humanity? Both of them are mankind made in God's image and there must be mutual respect. Who is the wife? Who is the husband? Is a wife, I mean, our president once said that my wife belongs to Zahoza room and to the kitchen. When the head of state, and he made that statement in Germany, a nation led by a woman, when the head of nation makes that statement, what do you expect, right? That is a statement that could lead to resignation in some other countries, but we all kept quiet about it. So who is a wife? When people say, I want to marry, do they really want to marry someone they can respect or someone to be cooking their food? Who is a husband? Do you love someone or you want an ATM machine? What is marriage? These are things we need to agree on their definition, and not just agree on the definition, we need to promote them. When you hear people teach and talk on social media, the first need of a man is respect. The first need of a woman is love. These are all wash teaching, pervading our airspace, and people are clapping. Now, so we need to build intervention that is community-led. That's the number two practical thing we need to do. And if we are ready, there is the flow chart for building this readily available. It can be shared, right? So we say we are doing he for she. Funding has been allocated for he for she. I have seen events he for she. What is the implementation of he for she to the lowest level in the transfer of the community? Nobody's talking about that. So he for she, let's do it. First ladies of various states are doing event. Let us go. Governor is doing an event. Let us go. Who is asking after this event and after it, after collecting souvenirs, what happens next? Nothing happens next till the next year. I remember that I was speaking for a first lady, and I told her, I'm going to give you practical solution, but I know you will not do anything, because I'm true to what I said. They did not do anything. So the question is, are we even ready? Or are we, because see, we must no longer be afraid of what is happening, because it has gotten to a crisis situation in Nigeria. So can we engage our artists and let them pioneer this move, create content, create sitcoms, create movies, create songs that promote what we want to promote, and that create zero tolerance, because many of us dance anyway, and many of us promote many of these things. Can we create concepts and shows? Can we create models that young people can follow, to know that every girl must be respected, every boy must be respected? And so at the root of many gender-based violence cases are self-sabotaging beliefs, often powered by culture and interpreters of religion. So when people have gender-based violence and they come to our office, this is a flow chart, a pie chart of a bar chart, of some of the question we normally ask them. Number one, a man is superior to a woman, and every man must submit to a woman. Every woman must submit to a man. You can see before we start working with them and after. Before working with them, you can see how high the male is, what they say. The male say, yes, we are superior. Where did you get that from? They'll tell you from the Bible. Where in the Bible? And God said, let us make man in our image. They have mistaken man for male. And so I said, continue and say, let them. If it was male he was talking about, it would have been let him. How come he become let them? Then they say, we don't know. So you see a lot of us in there. By the time we intervene with them for 6 months, you can see what it drops to. Number two, I believe a husband is superior to his wife. You can see many of them say, yes, I believe. So why won't he slap his wife? Number four, I believe is the duty. Number three, I believe is the duty of the woman to cook for the family, right? You can see what the male believe, what even female believe it. After working with them, it reduces a bit. Number four, I believe a real man must be able to be the breadwinner and must provide for his family. You can see what the answers they are giving. The man should have the final say in every matter in the family, even when his wife is more competent. You can see what they are saying. A wife who questions her husband is disrespectful, right? You can see what the men believe. And that is why women get slapped, they get battered, and nothing happens. It is not right, proper for a wife to earn more than her husband. You can see this belief system. At the root of this crisis is beliefs. If we don't change our culture, culture is the way of life of the people at every point in time, which means culture is progressive. But you even need to begin to ask, the culture of Africa, a lot of things are good about our culture, but the ones sabotaging, what are we doing about them? Who are the creators of this culture? What is their worldview? What is the intention? What was the exposure rate? Can we start to ask this question? Last question there, a good man must be able to control his wife and cut down her excesses. Many of the men want to control. So how does she hear our opinion? The final thing is that I would recommend for moving from talk to action, can we promote cultural shift using creative arts and education? Can we do that? I remember a few months ago, we created an innovation called Ready for Life. Ready for Life is supposed to help children across 6 years in all through secondary school and promote a culture of confidence, competence, and promote age-appropriate sexuality education. We've met with almost all the schools, right? They told us, we'll get back to you. Only one school implemented it. That's Ambassadors College, Ota. And they are reaping the reward today. If you go to that school, you would see how structured they are. We have to put systems in place for them. Now, semester happens, many of the schools are calling. Why do we wait till it's too late before we embrace what can help? It just shows that we are not ready to help. We just love hype or the idea of helping. Now, imagine a state-led, maybe Palais for Malay, social media creative campaign to say male for she, male for female, he for she, right? A community-led engagement where he stands for she, powered by celebs. Can we even do an event where the men, maybe we declare a day of men cook, where every man cooks in their family, or 1 week of men cooking, and they're putting it on social media? It will begin to send a signal to our boys that cooking is not for women, that human beings eat, human beings should cook. These are small wins that a governor of a state has the power to create. If Kaduna can create free work free day, then we can create this, right? And that is another area. When we talk about Nigeria, we want to get gender-based violence in Nigeria. What part of Nigeria are we talking about? Are we talking about southern Nigeria, or northern Nigeria? Because there are parts of Nigeria where child marriage is still being promoted. How do we end that? There are states in Nigeria that have not signed the Child Rights Act. They have not domesticated it. And are they part of Nigeria? These are issues we might need to contend with. We need a state-led family-life professional response system that prevents and responds to gender-based violence. God bless Lola Vivo and what they are doing. I mean, they show what is possible. But Lola Vivo and her team are small compared to the rest of Nigeria. How can we train other states to embrace it? The question is, because every state has autonomy, are they even ready? Because it appears to me that there is the business of this gender-based violence, and it will look like a multi-billion industry where people are benefiting and they are doing nothing. Now, so let me tidy this up by saying that the most important nation on earth is your family, because the family is the production factor of the society. Every problem started from the families, and the solution must start from the family. And like I started, a man who offers prayers on matters that he has the capacity to write a check to solve a problem is not really interested in solving the problem. We can actually help if we choose to help. But the question is, are we willing to help? Thank you very much. I am done.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, PF. That was a beautiful one. That was a very beautiful one. TJ, are you still there? Okay, well done. Thank you so much. Now we move to the next presentation, and that is the technology option of curbing gender-based violence. And after that, we'll move into the conversation on bullying, where we're going to be trashing and talking about what to do, who is at fault, and what is happening to our children in our schools. So Adedoyin Betiku, I want to believe you're still here. Please, while we're waiting for Adedoyin, I want us to drop our questions in the chat room so that the presenters can take the questions. Let's start dropping our questions while we take Adedoyin Betiku. Adedoyin, are you here? I want to also appreciate you all for joining back and for your patience and for staying with us on this topic. It just shows that it is a burden to you just as it is to us. So Adedoyin, can we have you? Adedoyin here. Okay, since we don't have Adedoyin here, can we have Thank God Ocheho? Thank God Ocheho is going to talk about the community aspects. Thank God, are you here? Can you all hear me? I want to be sure I'm not talking to myself.
Yes, we can hear you. Could it be that they're in the waiting room? Maybe they've not been given access or something. I would not know. Maybe the admin should check that.
You are right. The waiting room takes a while before you are admitted. So someone needs to be monitoring that. It took a while before I could be admitted.
Thank God is in the room, but he's muted.
Okay, thank God I learned you're in the room. Okay, I just allowed Adedoyin in now. I just saw Adedoyin just coming in now. Adedoyin Betiku, are you here now?
Yes, I am. Apologies.
Okay, so let's have Adedoyin Betiku. He's going to be talking to us about the technology option of curbing gender-based violence. Thank you. You can have the mic.
All right. Hello, everyone. Just to confirm that you can all hear me, if I continue.
Yes, we can hear you, Adedoyin. Good morning, and thank you for joining us. Thank you for your patience.
Thank you.
You can go ahead. Yeah, thank you.
All right. Can you see my screen also?
Yes, we can see your screen.
All right. All right. Thank you very much, everyone, for this opportunity. I'll just stand on existing protocols so that I can save time. As Tominino earlier mentioned on some of the innovations that they're using in their movement, it's really key to see how technology has impacted GBV, especially as a survivor. The issues of SGBV has been really particularly dear to me, and I'm really happy for this platform. I also want to thank the host and the organizers of this event. I'm also happy to see familiar faces in the SGBV campaign, and this goes just to show and set a basis for my very short presentation this morning on how technology is impacting SGBV in Nigeria, and how we hope to be able to move through the phases: ideation, research and development, field test, sustainable scaling, and digital campaign in the march and the fight for GBV in Nigeria. As Ebon rightly said, my name is Adedoyin Betiko, and I lend my voice as much as I can as a survivor towards the fight against GBV in Nigeria. First off, there is a growing concern and interest in different ways that emerging technologies can be leveraged to enhance the work of individuals, communities, and organizations, such as many of us here in the fight against GBV and SGBV in our world today. Most of these emerging technologies include transmission systems. We've seen television and radio programs evolve over time, and I'm really glad Mr. Praise had mentioned, some of these issues around how GBV is being spread right in front of us using some of these platforms. But then again, we cannot, ignore some of the impact that radio and television has had in the fight against SGBV. Also, some of these technologies include social media and the tools that we use to connect, early warning system, early response system, and GBV trackers, like what Tominino had mentioned, on how we can have a digital platform where convicted felons, people, where their names and pictures are listed, where we can, organizations, especially those who deal with vulnerables, can do a back search of people who have been convicted. And like Mr. Forward said, this database should be all-encompassing. Nobody is more Nigerian than a Nigerian. And so, when we're ready to have that discussion, these are people, this is a list that should have prominent names. I mean, we have a currently sitting senator who has abused someone, and we have, evidence, video evidence to prove it, and still there's nothing being done. I'm glad that Barrister Toyin had mentioned something on our silence culture. And even though, like I highlighted in this page, you can see the word enhance. It means that whatever we are doing, technology is supposed to amplify that. It means that if you add 1 million times 0, it is still going to be 0. So if our impact, if our individual contributions is 0 or highly negligible, it means that what we are currently pushing right now, technology will not be able to enhance it that much. But it means that it offers a platform, it offers an opportunity for us to then amass a critical mass where we have more people discussing about this issue. Like what Barrister Toyin had mentioned, breaking away from this silence culture would take more than just the belief system of the old, where our parents, including, unfortunately, and I said earlier that I am a survivor also, right? And I remember back then, of course, they did not know, they had function based of what they grew up to. We're always taught that you do not speak up against your family. And even when I tried to report people who had violated me, I was shut down, right? And so this particular culture is something that we must begin to push out from. And because virtually everyone is connected on social media right now, it means that it gives each and every one of us a voice to be able to even amplify some of these things. However, something that Mr. Praise had mentioned earlier again was on the fact that broken people cannot by themselves create a strong infrastructure. Although yes, broken crayons still color, but there is a limit to which we can move. And so there needs to be a platform where we will be able to use social media, we'll be able to use technologies to both heal those who have been broken, and then serve as a voice, serve as a medium for amplification. How it can be broadly used, we see that technologies can be used to gather and access support from local and international communities to raise awareness on the real issues faced by people at risk of GBV. And this is something that I'm really sure, thank God, we'll be able to expatiate more on, because I've worked closely with him, and there's a huge deficit gap in the psychosocial support structure as we have in Nigeria. In fact, it's still seen in Nigeria that people who go, looking for mental health support have a problem, right? And not necessarily so, because there's still a huge stigma behind our understanding of GBV, right? Our own understanding of GBV is still highly flawed. Like what Mr. The example that he gave just a few minutes ago. How many of us truly can say that we're not raped? So it's not a question again, right? And I really jotted that down because it was really profound to me. It's not a question of who was raped, it's a question of who was not raped. Because virtually everyone has experienced one form of GBV that we do not even know about. The next one is how do we leverage on, the next one is how we can use technology to leverage on social, political, religious, which is what Mr. Praise had really mentioned on, and entertainment platforms to galvanize support and swift justice for people who need it. And lastly, to monitor and evaluate interventions and measure impact. So yes, to me, this aspect rightly covers, your domain where, you're doing this, you're doing that, you're doing this. How do we then measure the impact of this? Like what he said earlier, you're training 150 respondents to a population of over 45 million as of today, right? How does that translate? Yes, it starts from somewhere, right? And it's a good step in the right direction, where we start from somewhere, we push ahead, and we see how we can have that multiplying effect, because it wasn't built in a day. And so the opportunities that exist for technology, especially in SGBV in Nigeria, is having a victim and survivor safe space where we can use technologies to be able to talk about these real issues that people face. I've been on television, I've been on radio many times, to speak about these things, and thus giving people, others, the audacity to be able to speak on their own truth. Because speaking about it is really relieving. I know that someone like Barrister Toyi will be able to speak well on this, because there is a limitation that comes to mind when you're affected and you're told and you're silenced still, right? And so having a safe space for victims and survivors to be able to speak their truth, to be able to listen, to be able to heal is paramount. And at New Foundation, I'm very sure thank God would discuss more about this. We are seeing other platforms also, where technology is used to offer therapy, right, to people right in the comforts of their home, where people are able to speak using the anonymity that social media provides, that technology provides, right? They're able to use this and harness it, to speak more on what they've gone through. And this is, again, a step in the right direction, but it is highly is overwhelming, right? The issues are more overwhelming than the current solutions that we have, especially in terms of structure, which I'll get to shortly. The next one is on advocacy and empowerment, which we're already doing. We're seeing how people are beginning to use their social media platforms. We have the likes of Fowles, we have the likes of Mr. Macaroni, who at one time had used their platform to promote GBV. But at a point in time, they had realized that this is what they're doing, and they use their platforms to start speaking against it. And so we need more people. We need to be able to gather a critical mass in this regard. Also, crowdsourcing and knowledge sharing and early warning and early response systems that I had mentioned. These early warning and early response systems will serve more in communities where there's issues with internet access and technology access. This is where people can have community-based forums where they discuss with prominent individuals or stakeholders within the community, people who are learned, people who are equipped with the right tools, with the right trainings to be able to help people who have been impacted by GBV or who are vulnerable, right? So the students, the children, boys, girls, in school, people who are vulnerable to SGBV, and provide a platform where we'll be able to escalate these issues to people who are at higher capacities to handle them. There are 7 areas, immediate areas of intervention, and I'm really glad that Tumininu is here because our office, I'm sure, has a huge role to play, especially in the light of this pandemic and a potential wave of another shutdown in Nigeria. We are seeing that in the first shutdown that happened 2020 to 2021, there was a huge spike, especially in Lagos, a 45% increase in number of cases of GBV in the country, in the state. And this is just the ones that have been reported. We had never experienced something like this in the history of Nigeria, where people are forced to stay in their houses. And so the frustration, the lack of access to jobs, access to finances, resources had already aggravated. And so people ended up being locked in with their abusers, and there was nothing that could be done. And so these are immediate areas of intervention that I believe that other prominent, other stakeholders in this forum will be able to leverage on technology and how it affects our law and policy. There is currently a campaign going on social media where they are naming and shaming states that have not adopted the VAP Act. And this is where we see how technology pushes for immediate adoption of pieces of legislation that have huge benefits to our collective good as a nation. In terms of systems and institutions, how is the organization that Tumininu represents, how are they leveraging on existing technologies to both sensitize and also to serve as a reporting platform where we can all collaborate and be able to lend our voices and also enact swift judgment. Gender equitable forums, like what Mr. Praise had mentioned earlier, this is something that we need to really push and ingrain into our systems. I mean, look at sex education. I remember that I went through sex education, but I don't think there's anything like that in our current curricula, right? And so if you bring up children, if you bring up next generation who have no concept of what is right or wrong, what should be done, what should not be done within the confines of their biological makeup, then it serves as a gap, a huge gap, where perpetrators, where predators can, prey on individuals, on innocent children. Essential services, we have the primary health care, we have mental health institutions. What do we do about this? And many of our primary health care service providers actually understand the root issues behind GBV. How many of them actually know what to do in a situation where someone comes to you and says that they have been molested, they've been abused, right? Firsthand, I had the experience where a woman was abused. She was doing this early morning jog, and the next thing she did was to go to a police station. And the next question, instead of them getting a swab sample, so they'll be able to identify, use DNA sequence to identify who the perpetrator might be, they were asking her, why were you going out at that time to jog? Why were you wearing your jogging outfits? And so she went out of the police station without help. And this is where our technology needs to be able to integrate more with our essential services, where we have the where all systems are integrated. Our hospitals are integrated with our police stations, so that immediate and quick services will be granted. Also, we have disaggregated data. Currently, Nigeria has a data issue where our data is either grossly aggregated, or it is grossly underrepresenting, or it does not serve the purpose to which it can be used for scalable action like what we are talking about today. And so we need to be able to break down data, and all of this costs money, right? And Mr. Praise had raised a critical question. The money is for these things because they are all within the budget, even though some get more recognition than others, right? But they still in the budget, there are still millions of naira catered to issues like this, and what happens to them at the end of the day. Technology and how it affects movement, CSOs, rights advocacies, like what Barrister Tony had mentioned a few minutes ago of what she went to do just a few minutes ago. How will technology improve, expand some of the issues that she has been talking about, like the case of the girl, that they went to advocate for, and the other boys, who had recently been on radio. We see how technology has amplified those voices. Fine, we know that maybe something will not be done about it, but we know that as of today, there is a voice that has been raised. There are people who know about the situations. There are currently meetings going on about the fate of Dowen School. There's currently meetings going on about different other schools. We see that the case of Don Davis, in Deeper Life School, just a few months back, have been revisited again because of recent issues, and the perpetrators have been sent to jail. And so we see how technology affects this thing. And again, lastly, which is empowerment programs and interventions. Now, I know I've said a lot about the promises of technology and how it helps to help GBV in the country, the fight against GBV in the country. But it is not without its own challenges, and I'll mention just a few. Number one is access to the technology itself. The financial aspect is still something that is really, really huge. How do people able to afford internet in the country? Are people able to afford the devices through which they will access the internet in the country? Just recently, the NCC had mentioned that there was a 29.6% decline in the amount of people who used the internet just this year. And we see that that is largely due to the fact that people just simply cannot afford it. So it means that someone who has the access to it, who probably has a phone, does not have someone who was abused does not have the platform, does not have the device or the platform with which to be able to amplify, to be able to report some of these cases. Lack of evidence is another one. right? Where we are seeing in the case of Timi Dakolo, where Timi Dakolo's wife, where something that happened many years ago, and the only issue that she couldn't rightly defend was the fact that where is the evidence? How do you know? Right? Even in situations where there are evidences, due to photo manipulation, video manipulation these days, reality can be smeared, right? You can see someone on a video abusing someone, and the person can say, no, it was not me, it was doctored, right? And if the person has a good lawyer, you'll be able to defend it. The next one is on cyberbullying and attacks. And unfortunately, we had experienced firsthand, one of it today. But we see that in cases where people come out to actually talk about situations like this, where especially men, and this affects men as much as it affects women, especially on social media. For men, the next thing you hear is that, didn't you enjoy it? Are you not a man? How will a woman do this to you? For a woman, it might be another situation. Why didn't you allow him? Why didn't you just allow me and then go and report? Things like this that should not even be heard of. And lastly, which is a little more important than perhaps every other issue, is the issue of clout. And this issue is really, really big because there are people currently leveraging on the new awakening to the issues of GBV, and they are leveraging on this for personal gain. Mr. Praise had mentioned on people who go around it, around the issue of GBV, who do try to match only because of their pocket. There's another level of these people on social media who try to do it just to collect digital currency, and which is followership, which is attention on social media, and so on and so forth, often to the detriment of another person. And this had happened to a friend of mine firsthand, who was accused of rape, and only because the guy had, what we call receipts online, right? He had documentation of the interaction that he had with the lady, and he was able to take legal steps to be able to protect himself. Otherwise, who knows what would have happened to the guy or his job today. And lastly, my recommendations are, in terms of access, this is where the states and CSO partnerships really shine, right? In terms of providing certain essential services and access to funds. Not that you should go and buy communities' phones, no. But in a situation where you have a community of low-income people, this is where early warning and early response system comes to shine. And personally, I'm in charge of, I personally work with a team who provides a support like this in the northern region of Nigeria, in the northeast and in the northwest. And as my colleague, thank God, will show, even in the north central, where we go to hard to reach communities, and through the power of technology, we're able to escalate issues of peace, issues of GBV to higher authorities, state security, state officials who are in an authorized position to do something about it. Integrated and gender-sensitive approaches. We look at our current budget, we look at certain aspects, and you see a clear deficit of gender sensitivity to it, where we see that a lot of it caters to the general populace, but does not take into consideration certain specific, gender-specific issues that should have been catered to. Another area of recommendation is in our ethical and security considerations. As we all know, last year, there was a claim to start monitoring people's devices online. Where do we draw the line between privacy and the need for a cleaner and a safer virtual community, virtual nation, right? These are opportunities where we need to look more critically into, actually with the help of rights advocates, to be able to look at how we can go about this ethically without imposing on people's privacy, or without imposing on and going into areas we're not supposed to go into. And lastly is the lack of evidence, and what my recommendation is on this is actually regarding our primary health care and our sex education infrastructure in our primary and secondary and even tertiary institutions, right? And this is something that if we're able to help younger generations understand what we are supposed to do to both prevent and to protect and to serve for proof, those three things: prevent, to protect, and to serve as proof, issues of GBV, we would make huge strides in Nigeria. But like Mr. Praise, again, I keep on referring to a lot of the things he had said earlier. You know, it has to come from a place where we are actually ready to have this discussion and to have this change, right? So it's not, the technology already exists. The people who want to do something about it already exist. But by ourselves, we are virtually zero or very, very small compared to the amount of people who do not know or who know and take advantage of the loopholes in our systems. And so we must continue to have, you know, discussions like this where we're able to speak to more people, you know, educate more people and enlighten more people. Okay, I hope I've earned the privilege of your time. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you so much, Adedoyin Betiku. Thank you for the powerful presentation. We really appreciate that. And just as you know, we want to talk about the actions, moving away from action, from talk to scalable actions. And that is why we are here. I noticed when you were talking, you referred a lot to what Mr. Praiseful said. And this is just for you to know that as an organization, we are tired of the talk. And so we want to move into actions. I appreciate the fact that you mentioned that organizations should start, CSO should start collaborating. And this is why we are here. This is the main reason why we are here, talking about the recommendations, talking about the challenges you listed. We have been on this for a long time. And that is why we are here to talk about the scalable actions. I want to go to, so I have quite a number of questions here that people have sent. But we are going to, and I want to appreciate Tumininu for the beautiful work BSVA is doing. And so we are going to put all this together, saying that, because after your presentation, Tumininu, I know somebody, Mr. Praise also mentioned that, okay, so that number of nurses with the population that we have and all, we have mentioned how that the communities, the people in the rural areas don't have access to technology, they don't have phones, and they are experiencing all this. I want to call on Mr. Praise right now, because the questions I have here, they are questions that are asking for action. Somebody said, those are stigmatized, there's no way they will come out. Somebody is saying, even when you throw it online, yeah, Adedoyin also said that. Even when you throw it online, there's something about it. They will say, oh, it wasn't, that's on me, it was programmed, it was planned. Mr. Praise, what do you think we can do? Going into the community, what are the things, what are the actions? I want you to talk about the collaboration thing. How do we go about it? How do we solve this problem of stigmatization and all? Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. When it comes to stigmatization, honestly, it's not something that has a straight answer. We need to look at our culture. What does our culture promote? Because you see, every intervention you take to any country, have you asked yourself, why is it that interventions that work in other countries never work in Nigeria? It's a cultural problem. The same Islam in UAE is not the same Islam in Nigeria. The same Christianity in Japan is not the same thing in Nigeria. Every intervention comes on a culture. And when it comes on a culture, it takes the shape of that culture. So if we don't address the culture, there is nothing anybody can do. But what we can, however, attempt to do is to shame the bully back, which has produced some form of result. I mean, take, for instance, the case of Sylvester. The other questions I'm asking is, if Sylvester's father was not a man of means, let's say he didn't have money, let's say he's not connected, right? Would we have taken this case to this level that we are? If it happened in Alagomeji Primary School or Obowanko Primary School in Ajegunle, will the nation have risen the way we have risen so far? Those are things we need to begin to look at. But the other point is all the NGOs now need to come together. The CSO, they all need to come together in the sense that everybody now needs to look at their comparative advantage. Competitive advantage, because some are stronger in certain areas. What we've had over time is, because it's a game of funding, someone gets the funding and the person feels, you know what, let us find the cheaper option so that we can maximize profit, as against the right option that can deliver on this. So those are the issues we need to begin to look at. And the other issue is, when some people are above the law, it becomes very difficult to do a whole lot of things. So it's a monster that we now need to dimension and say, how do we ensure that judiciary, for example, they accelerate judgment and that nobody is above the law? How do we ensure a wholesale cultural change powered by religion, traditional rulers? Then we now come to, because even if all the CSOs say they want to do something, if the culprit in question is a government official or maybe a governor, I mean, how much can they do? Or a president, for example, how much can they do? So once we have a system where people are above the law, it becomes very, very tough, honestly. And that is my honest. So we're left with shaming the shamer back online, using online advocacy, getting the name to trend. At least when they Google the name, they will find some things there about the person. But even that can be cleaned up right now. So it's not a straight answer, trust me, but that's what I can say.
Okay, so Mr. Praise, how do you encourage the CSOs? What are the steps? Do you have steps you want us to take? Because I want to throw it out now that any CSO that wants to collaborate with the Center for Sex Education and Family Life should reach out to us. We need to start making moves.
The thing is, a lot of CSOs are working based on passion. Passion is good, but passion is not enough. You need to get trained, and please put it as part of your budget. Get trained, because for example, if people come to our office, we don't even listen to you. We run psychometry. This game is data-driven right now. You need to get trained. I think that's the most important thing CSOs need to understand. You need to get trained. Then you need to master strategy, right? Every cases are not the same. There are people you can't shame because their middle name is shame in Nigeria. So to attempt to, I don't know, you mentioned the guy who is in the House of Assembly, who publicly, beat up someone, molested someone, and the guy is still a lawmaker, right? They shamed him. He was trending for a few days. And you see, the challenge is, it looks like the bad cases are it's almost as if there's a script in Nigeria. Once there's a bad case, another higher case comes. So people trend on that before they finish. So we never conclusively address any case before another one shows up. So we are talking about Sly. 17 children have been killed in whatever. We pick that up. So we go down on Sly. But there was a case before Sly, which we have totally forgotten. So the new release is coming faster than our capacity to conclude on the cases. So strategy now comes to now say, can we have dedicated NGOs, maybe 4, pursue Sly, pursue it to a logical conclusion. That's all they are doing. Another case comes, 2 NGOs. So we need a clearing house, as it were, where there can be maybe DSVA or in other states that can now say, you NGO, this is your area. Focus on this issue. Don't come to any other issue until this is pursued to a logical conclusion. You need to send reports. So it's a game of strategy, right? And we all need to get into a room and do this strategy. And we always have to understand that we want to solve the problem. We don't care who gets the problem solved. Because if the focus is in solving the problem, then I'm sure we will move faster.
Thank you very much, Mr. Praise. There's a question here. Thank God is supposed to do a presentation on the community, what NGOs can do at the community level and in the trauma level. So thank God. Apologies, you might not be able to do your presentation because we don't want to wear people out on this conversation. And I want to also I want us to take the advantage of this platform to talk about the situation that we have at hand. That's the bullying and the Doen school issue. But I want you to, I don't know, thank God, are you here? I want thank God to respond to this question. What and how can we help survivors that are based in the rural communities? Is thank God here?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you for your time. We really appreciate your patience. Please, I want you to respond to that question, please. How can we help survivors that are based in the rural communities?
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for this opportunity to present this question. Looking at helping survivors that are based in rural community, I think the first thing is that our motive needs to be clear. We are talking about NGOs coming together to do things. We need to be clear from onset because agenda differs. So once your motives are not clear, when we come together, they're going to sabotage the process. So it's very important I make this clear to everyone if we want to come together. But again, at the immediate level, there are certain things that can be done. There's what we call working groups of CSO or CBOs. So you can have a working group or to address a particular social issue. So for instance, GBV. So when I address GBV, we can have a working group that, let's say this organization has competence in mental health, this one has competence in medical support, this organization has competence in livelihood support. So whenever there's an issue in a community, and if it's a medical requirement, because you need to do needs assessment to know what is required in that particular community. So if it's a medical issues, we quickly get the medical support, the organization that into medical support engage that they need to quickly address that particular issue. So let's say, for instance, in Lagos State, you have 10 NGOs in this particular forum, and they decide to come together addressing different issues. If there's a particular issue in Bega, for example, that has to do with maybe a child is being molested, and we have gone to assess the issue and realize that the issue is livelihood support that the child needs or economic empowerment. So we say, okay, this particular NGO is in charge of it. We need you to go and do this in the next 20 minutes, in the next 30 minutes. So there's that quick response because there's a policy framework that we guide that working group. So it's not just bringing working group together. There must be a policy framework that will guide the working group to be able to address that particular issue. So talking about the question that you just asked now in terms of rural area, there are two things that we need to put into consideration when we're trying to address gender-based violence. One is prevention and response. So prevention in the sense that there are things that we need to do to be able to prevent gender-based violence from happening. So some of these things has to do with organization coming up or individual coming up with initiatives that address cultural issues that promote gender-based violence. So what are those cultural issues within the community, the traditions within the community that promote gender-based violence? So people should come up with ideas, innovations to address it. So at that point, we're trying to prevent it from reoccurring. But at the response level, of course, in each of those organizations, we need to also see how we can respond. If you have CBOs in those organizations, you build their capacity. That is very important for sustainability. At times, we take NGOs into organizations, or we take NGOs to community, especially local NGOs. We realize that even after the project is wound up, there's no sustainability plan. And you also discover in the long run that the same issue continue. So that sustainability plan must be clear, from the onset before you start implementing any project within the society, within the community rather. So it's very important we look into that. So whatever it is, if it's medical issues that NGOs are addressing, if it's a mental health issue, whatever the issue are, let's be big in capacity building. And when I talk of capacity building, I'm not just talking of counting numbers. And the truth is this, until we begin to bring this thing down at our own local level, see, the whites are no more interested in Nigeria than you are. They are just here to collect numbers. They are interested in data. It's a data-driven organization. They just get your data and take it. We are the one that should be driven by impact, to ensure that everything that we are doing is driven by impact. Unfortunately, because most of us, a lot of people working in NGOs, they are into NGOs to fund their lifestyles. Also, they are into NGO to meet that lowest level of the physiological need. Because that is what is driving them, they don't look at impact. And let me tell you, what is happening currently in the NGO space is that in few years to come, international organizations have said they will no longer be sponsoring our NGOs in Nigeria. that they need local NGOs who have the competence, that those are the people that will be giving direct funding. And let me tell you the strategy the INGOs are doing now. They are also setting up local NGOs that are affiliated with them. I get right. So that the direct, see, this thing is a big business. And until we understand it, to know that it's not just going into and starting NGOs. Like Praise said, passion is not enough. You must understand the science behind it. In starting an NGO, that will be impact driven. I am emphasizing on that word, impact driven, because if it's not impact driven, we can't see the change that we are talking about. I think I should stop here.
Thank you. Wow, thank God. That was a powerful one. You hit the nail on the head. With all the noise and all, Action Aid came in, gave money and all. What is the impact that we have recorded? And that's very profound. You also said something. I like what you started with, that we need to understand the motives. We need to make our motives clear so that we will not be sabotaged. And that's also very profound, bringing different organizations that have different motives, like health, mental health. Okay, this one is going to handle the counseling, this one will handle the sensitization and all. Thank you so much. That was a beautiful one. And this is how we can this is how we can have impact in our communities. Just like you said, a lot of people, Praise Forward also said that, how that this has become business avenue for quite a number of people. It's so sad because some people are taking advantage of some people's pain. It's so terrible. Thank you so much, everyone. I see in the chat room, somebody said collaboration between organizations, institutes at a high readiness level is the way forward. Okay, thank you very much. So cultural changes are slow and complicated. It can be complicated, but if we can move en masse, can move in numbers, and our motives are the same, I'm sure we will be able to achieve that. It's a big one. Culture, it's a very big one. And I'm sure we'll get there, and very, very soon, if we are ready to collaborate. I'm going to drop our organization email in the chat. If you're ready to collaborate, please just know that we are not for talking anymore. We want to scale. We want to have impact. We want to move into the action part of this discussion. Thank you very much, everyone, for being here. Thank you for joining us. We don't want to stop this conversation or this discussion without talking about our children. PF started by defining what bully is. Thank God you are a psychologist. I want you to talk about bullying from the psychological part. But now I want you to say, we don't want to waste people's time. We have started this for a long time. And so I want you to go straight to the point. While after that, PF, you're going to take over by talking about who is doing the wrong thing? What can we do? What's happening to the parents? And how do we help our children, our schools? Thank you. Thank God. Over to you.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Yeah, quickly, let me just make this suggestion. My suggestion in terms of the immediate steps that we can do as soon as possible is for us to be able to have like a peer support group. When I mean peer support group, where, because like I said, there's a science to running an NGO. When we have this peer support group, so we can be meeting and responding to issues. And the essence of the meeting, basically, for instance, how do you get funding? Somebody can come and do a presentation on that, because some NGOs need help, you know, in how do you get funding or how to get funding. They do a presentation on that. People learn in the process and they share their own experience. You know, so it's like an experience sharing working group where people come together to address those issues. I think it's something that we can do as an immediate step. When we come to bullying, well, everywhere emotions are high, everybody talking about it. Like we all know, it didn't start today, even right from primary school, people have been bullied. But there are four major components when it talked about bullying. The first one is hostile intent. That means the person has the intention to be hostile towards another person. The second component is aggression. There's a form of aggression, whether it's physical aggression, verbal aggression, whatever it is. And the third one is imbalance of power. And this is very critical. Imbalance of power. That's the difference between bullying and conflict. The imbalance of power. That means somebody that has power, whether the power is physical, social, whatever form of power or positional, is bullying or inflicting pain on somebody else. And of course, the last is repeated for a long period of time. That is in a continuous process. So it's just, that form of aggression and teasing, threat, whatever it is, that somebody is at the position of power, is able to inflict pain or intimidate or threaten somebody else that it seems to be lower than. Of course, this is not a session to begin to talk about bullying, the psychology behind it, and all of that. But I think that's basically the major concept about bullying. And I think, again, there's issues that we need to address when it comes to this issue of bullying. That aspect of the imbalance of power is something that we need to talk about. Leadership must be taught from the grassroots. People have seen leadership as an ability to be able to lord it over somebody else. That is where bullying starts. And bullying is everywhere, in the workplace, in the religious center, in the family, in everywhere, because the concept of leadership is not really understood, even in primary school. So the time you become a senior, you see it as an opportunity to intimidate, to threaten, and to lord it over other people. And in conclusion, one most dangerous thing about bullying is a traumatic event that changed the dynamics of the brain. I don't have that time to explain that, but it changes the dynamics of the brain, and the person begins to function based on the reaction that happened within the person's brain. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank God. I actually wanted you to talk about the dynamics, the effect of bullying on the brain. And that was why I asked that you respond to that question. Because I was just thinking, maybe if people understand the effect on the brain, maybe they would know, because some people are just doing it without knowing the implication of what they're doing. So can you just briefly talk about that before PF talk about the parenting aspect?
Okay, when we go through a traumatic experience, not just bullying, but a traumatic experience, which bullying is part of it, is that the first thing it does, there's the part of the brain that, sorry, can you hear me? Hello?
Yes, we can hear you, thank God. I can hear you.
Hello?
Hello,
okay.
I can hear you, yeah.
So, sorry, I was saying that when an individual, when an individual is part of it, the first thing that happens is that the brain has a part that is called the memory. It's like when you are taking a picture. The moment you take a picture, the picture is imprinted. So the brain has a part called the memory, where those things that happen on the external, that the child sees on a daily basis. The parent bullied the teacher, the child sees it. The parent bullied the nanny, the driver, the security, the child sees it. The parent bullies the siblings, the child sees it. Religiously they are bullying their members, the child sees it. Politician bullies the citizen, the child sees it. Now all this goes into the brain. The memory is imprinted, and the child begins to internalize it as a reality, and it becomes the norm for the child. But there are three sections. The first one is the thinking part of the brain. Once an experience is happened, a traumatic experience happened, the thinking part of the brain, which is the prefrontal cortex, is underactivated. I repeat, the prefrontal cortex is underactivated. There is another part of the brain, the anterior cingulate, is responsible for emotional regulations. That part is also underactivated. But there is this part that is overactivated, the amygdala, which is the place for the fear center, the emotions. It is overactivated. So if an individual have gone through a traumatic experience like bullying, the part that is overactivated is the amygdala, the fear center, the emotional part. That is what the person will be reacting to. If he has not gotten ill, will be reacting to whenever there is a trigger from the environment. So whenever things happen, that emotion, the thinking is shut down. The emotional regulation is shut down because they are underactivated. It is only the amygdala, which is overactivated, that will begin to respond. So you see them will respond with their emotion through aggression, with anger, every kind of negative emotion they can respond with. That is what they will respond, because that's the part that is regulated. And at that point is that part that is controlling them, because the thinking part and the part to regulate their emotion is shut down. So that is one major thing traumatic event does to the brain. And that's why we see what we are seeing in the society today. The child, until people go through healing, like I always say, there is an inner child in you that is traumatized. Even in adulthood, that inner child is there. Until you heal the inner child will be fighting with your adulthood. And that process continues. So we need to go back and deal with the childhood trauma. Even at 60 years old, that inner child is there. You need to awake that tiger that is in you, responsible for you doing so many, dangerous things that you do within the society, because you think that thing, childhood trauma does not disappear. It moves to your subconscious and you always come back. That's the point I'm trying to make.
Thank you so much. Thank God, guys. So he has been able to talk about this briefly, but you see, we're going to have another meeting very soon. We'll let you know. Just stay glued to our emails. You're going to get the email from us, because we need to talk about this part, the psychological effect of bullying, of shouting, and all that we are doing to our children, because all of us as adults, Praise said it, thank God just said it, that we have been abused somehow. And that is what has determined and decided, that is who we are now. That's the life we are living. We're going to talk more about this in our subsequent meeting, which is going to be very, very soon. And so before PF, we're going to have PF as the last speaker for this meeting. I want to appreciate everyone for your patience, for hanging in there, and for your passion, for your desire to see an end to gender-based violence amongst women and children. PF, Praise, we want you to talk about what are the practical ways to cope this? What are the practical ways?
We're talking about moving to scalable action. We don't want to talk. Everyone here, I was going to mention what Tango just talked about. Everyone here needs to find a way to heal. You need to, we have all been traumatized. If you grew up in Africa, there's a measure of trauma in you. Whether you want to accept or you don't want to accept, you need to find healing. I think I saw Zuriel somewhere there. That is one of our core areas, okay? You need to find healing. You need to work with people to heal. Now, so that is the first action step. It's a personal responsibility, right? And so I want us to focus on the things within our control, right? You need to heal. That's number one. And you can do that by yourself. You don't need government. They can't legislate that. Number two, you need to make a commitment not to be a bully, right? Because some of us traumatize our children, we traumatize people around us. You need to make a commitment not to be a bully yourself, that you're not going to bring trauma to other people. Number three, action. You need to make a commitment, everyone here, to speak up and ask questions. Don't be rude, but at least ask questions. So, for example, right, you want to check around, you are in the religious place and you feel that a religious leader is bullying you. Raise your hand, ask a question. I've been in a religious place before where the religious leader said that all of you who don't pray at 2 a.m., you are all lazy Christians, blah, 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 blah. And he went on and I felt bullied. I don't wake up to pray at 2 a.m. And I raised my hand. And he said, because if you don't pray at 2 a.m., witches will disturb you, the COVID, that's when they mean. And I raised my hand. I didn't insult him. I asked a question. 2 a.m. of which of the time zone? Is it Pacific? Is it CST? Which of the time? Apparently, the man did not know that there are different time zones.
Good question.
Because so that if they are meeting 2 a.m. in Nigeria, I will switch to GMT. If they are meeting in GMT, I can know when to switch because I don't want to be part of that. He didn't know. And he himself now told me later that he will stop making those kind of statements. That was what his mentors also told him. So if many of them are not aware. So we must activate our capacity to begin to ask questions, because people bully people in the name of religion and whatever. So that's number 3. Number 4, many of you here are parents, right? Children are bullied in your school. Can you go to your school tomorrow and your child's school and ask for the vision of the school? And let me tell you how to do it. Don't ask for the vision of the school from the owner. The owner already memorized what is on the wall. Ask the cleaners. Ask the gate man. Ask the school drivers. All of us can do that one immediately. Now, if the school driver, the school cleaner, and the gate man, they don't know the vision of the school, that school has no vision. And wherever there is no vision, the people perish. Your child is already at risk. It's only a matter of time, because vision is what determines the values of the school. The values is what determines the structure and the system. System is what governs behavior. Now, many schools don't have, once they don't know, go immediately. Coordinate the PTA. Let them know what you discovered. Let them also go and ask the same question. Then begin to ask the school owners, what is the vision of our school? If they don't have, and I'll tell you this, I've been to certain schools that, I worked with a school like 5 years ago, where I asked what is the vision of the school from teaching staffs and non-teaching staff. Over 500 of them, one of the largest schools in Nigeria, somewhere in the eastern part of the country. Only 4 new division, they could write it word for word. This is a vision in front of their wall. So if they can't write it, how do they domesticate it? How do they implement it? So this one, you can do it. If you feel bullied and they say, what right do you have? You have the capacity to withdraw your children. You have the capacity to reach out to us, maybe even write about it on social media, so that people know that, because we need to force school owners. Since public education are broken down, what we are left is private education. As parents, we must become responsible. So you can do that. You can attend PTA meetings. Don't now run away from PTA meetings and ask human questions. Can parents take a tour around the, can you take a tour around the dormitory to find out what is happening? Can you activate the whistleblower, right? And anonymous boxes around the school, or a dedicated email that is not in control, that the schools don't control, that the junior students can use to at least report eyewitness account, right? Whether when they go home, at least it will be anonymous, or maybe a dedicated WhatsApp message, WhatsApp number that is not, it's not the school that controls, because if the school controls it, they might bury it, right? That the junior students can use to at least talk about what they are going through. Then once that happens, we can, because if we deal with this at the local level, then when people know that there will be consequence for action, then they would likely stop. So these are things within our control that we can begin to do. And please, lastly, get parenting knowledge. Get parenting knowledge. Very, very key. Many of us have never read a book, never attended any seminar on parenting. Your child will become a specimen in your experimental lab. And you know that the specimen never survived the experiment. So in many cases, right, our children have become that experiment because we don't have adequate knowledge. So parents, can you get knowledgeable? We run all kinds of trainings, and there is one we're launching in January that is directly for your children. It's called Ready for Life, right? You can also opt in your child, and there will be mentors online who will mentor your child for you, because I'm worried about the low self-esteem I have found across many children in Africa. I'm worried about the things I'm hearing that they can't even tell their parents. I'm worried about the suicide ideation in many of secondary school children. It's almost as if we all slept off and a new generation woke up. So these are things that you can do almost immediately. Let us know what your result looks like when you do these things. Then we can now take it to the next level. If government cannot save us, can we save ourselves? Can we do what is within our control? And that's what I want us to focus on at the end of this meeting, to say, go out there, stand against bullying. You stop being a bully. Go and ask the right question from your child's school, even your Sunday school or your KU houses. Go and ask the same question, because no child is safe until every child is safe. And until you begin to ask the right question, you might not know how mediocre and how porous many of the systems we clap for are. I think those are the basic action steps I think we can take.
Thank you so much, PF. One major thing you talked about is the healing. We all need to heal. Hurting people hurt people. And so you're surprised you're behaving the way you're behaving. It is because you are hurting. There's something happens to you that you have stored in your subconscious, and that thing is fighting for attention, just like Thank God said. You know, pressure is a revealer. So we need to pay attention to our healing. Very, very important. And so Pierre, when you were talking about speaking up, you know, Tony also said it, that silence is the new bully now. Silence is, so speaking up is very important. You know, when Sylvester's story came up, I was feeling very guilty because something even happened in my daughter's school. All we did was just to pull the girl out of the school, and we didn't say anything to the other parents or so. And when Sylvester's story came out, and I asked her, did your friends tell their parents? They said, no, they didn't tell. And I started chatting those children up one by one. So you guys did not tell your parents what happened. And this is what we have done to our children. We are not close to them. We don't listen to them. And even when they talk, when my daughter told me, the school came back and they were victimizing her. And that was a terrible one. And I now have to go online on the school platform to say, so and so thing happened. You can imagine in the boarding school when an intruder entered the girls' hostel, and the school authority told the children not to tell their parents that they are going to put all this in control. So out of how many children in the hostel, she was the only one that told her parents. And the school turned around to say they wanted to fight her. So this issue of speak up, we need to take it very, very important. We need to be committed to our parenting. Like I said, we are going to host another meeting very soon in the next few days, and we're going to send the invitation to you all, where we're going to talk about parenting, raising children that are ready to take up life. PF just said it. We have the Ready for Life program, which we are starting. We did the free run. We did a free class in the month of November, throughout the month of November, and we have about 300 and something children registered. If you are interested, I dropped our email on the chat box, and we also have the email on the YouTube. You can click on this link, and if you want to, for more inquiries, you can send a message to the email address that have been shared, and we'll pick it up from there. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you for the speakers. Thank you to Menino. Thank you, Adedoyin. Thank you, Thank God. Thank you, PF. Thank you for all you do. Thank you for that drive to be a savior to African children. We really appreciate this. We can see how, I wonder if you have slept since yesterday, because at our own midnight was your afternoon, you were on. This is our morning, it was your night, and you're still here. We really appreciate this about you. It is beyond passion. It is because you want a change, and that's why you're doing this. And this is the reason why we have about 78 people join in, even after we experienced a cyberbully, and people still join in. It is because you're so interested in putting an end to gender-based violence against women and children. And we will not keep quiet until we put an end to this. So while we round up, I want us to put on our chat box your take home today. And if you're excited about this program, and if you want us to hold the next one in the next few days, it's going to be like in 4 days' time, and we're going to send messages to you. What do you want for your children? What do you want for yourself? What do you want to start doing differently? That's a major one. How do you want to support one another to put an end to this? We are raising a village where all of us work together to put an end to all those things that are causing problems in our society. Thank you once again for joining us. Please get parenting knowledge, and we'll be able to solve all this. Get healing, very important. Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you so much, DSVA, Domestic and Sexual Violence Agency, Lagos State Domestic and Sexual Violence Agency. Thank you so much for this support. Thank you, NNGO. NNGO went to the point of sending this broadcast, an email to invite people. Thank you, NNGO. We appreciate you for the wonderful work you are doing. And I want to also appreciate my team. Thank you so much for your support. Thank you so much, Family Center, Family Systems, Institute of Family Engineering and Development. Thank you so much, Praise Forward International. We really appreciate you for this beautiful outing. And with this, we come to the end of this program. While, you know, we started with the national anthem, and we're going to conclude this meeting with the national anthem. Amiu, are you there? So while we wait for the media to get the national anthem, I want you to write in the chat box what you experienced, your take home from this meeting.